I have a little camera that's over my head here, but it doesn't usually catch you guys, so I'm not trying to make anybody famous. I get pretty low views on my videos anyway, so I like it like that. All right, so let's see here. Let me blast over to your guys' screen. So here I come. What I do is I just send you my screen. You can move it to whatever monitor you want. Like you can pretty much wherever that program opened on your computer too, you can move it to the left or right monitor. But this is just my screen that I threw at you, so you're seeing what I'm seeing. Mine looks a little bit different than yours because I've done a little bit of customization. Sorry, I can't get that thing off. There we go. I've customized mine a little bit. Those machines are not worth customizing that you guys are on because they get wiped. Like IT wipes them every night. So anything you would save here or try to keep like a custom settings, it'll be wiped and be to default every night. So what I want to first show you is because you're an ISU student with a dot, which you only have while you're a student. I think even your email kind of expires after you leave and you're not a student anymore. So you really only have access to these programs free while you're an actual student. And it might give you like a year before it makes you like re-verify that you still have an active ISU like email address. So if you get it now and you're a student beyond just this semester, I think it'll probably give you access for a year. So that's kind of worth doing in my eyes. So I'm just going to go to a web browser here. I got my master car up right now, but I'm just going to go in here and go into Autodesk. The main company that makes this program is Autodesk. It's just because they make a lot of different programs, AutoCAD being the one. So Autodesk is where I'm going. So this is what you can do from a home computer. You don't need to do this now. I'm just showing you how, if you're interested in getting this, you could. So you go to Autodesk's website here, and then they have a bazillion different programs, and they show some of the prices. They're really expensive. Uh, Even if you do download this and use it free, I think they have a pretty robust, like, come and get you. They'll try to find you if you're trying to make money with their programs that are really like the reason why they give it to you as a student is just so it's like they're good about education and wanting to teach people how to use their programs. But once that's expired, they want you to buy their program. And so if you're trying to, and they don't want, and there is a disclaimer, if you're going to use it as an educational student, you're not supposed to be able to use it to make money. And so I don't use it for that for sure. And I'd encourage you not to, but you do you. So anyway, yeah. If you want to play with trouble, go ahead. Or I would not, but
Don't sell your grinder, man.
yeah, don't sell the design and yeah, I don't know. So we're gonna do AutoCAD is what we'd want to do, and I think if I remember how, I don't even think you have to sign in. You're gonna end up having to probably make an account because what they want to know is they're gonna have to verify your email address. But if I go here to like education, I think is where I would click. So you can either be, obviously you're not an educator, but you're a student. So as a student, you can request or renew access. So I would go to like the student section here. And then, like I said, I'm recording this, so you'll have this. And then it would be like, well, what do you want to do? Or like I could invite you to get access, but I don't even think you need that. So you could just like select the product. And then you get this whole, like, this is all Autodesk makes, um, let's see here, we would want AutoCAD, just the cut and just the plain Jane AutoCAD. They have made AutoCAD more robust and more refined for like real specialized purposes. So we have AutoCAD electrical, architecture, mechanical, Map 3D, MEP, Plant 3D. So they have made there's quite a few different just AutoCAD based products, but the one I'd be looking for if you wanted to download it would be AutoCAD, and you would select this. It'll probably make you like do a bunch of stuff, fill out what you're going to use it for. I'm going to student use it, and then you'd pick like student use. I'm trying to get to where maybe I don't even need to do that. Let me subscription plans as student here. Yes, maybe select this. Continue. It's going to ask you to verify that you're a student. What I just want to show is just get like AutoCAD, plain Jane AutoCAD, and I think you can even choose the year that you're gonna once you entered all this stuff, they may make you confirm and go back into it through your email to actually get access to it. But so I'm not going to go through all that. I think in my video I might go to the next step because you can actually usually choose the year of the program that we're going to use. What you'll notice is the one you clicked on these computers, it's called AutoCAD 2025. It's actually late in 2025, so they're just like any subscription-based product. Is that they usually roll out the new ones in September, maybe August or September of every year. Uh, if you download from home 2026, which it might be the default one that wants to download, that's fine. It's just that you won't be able to open those here. So, and that's the nature of this, if AutoCAD and Autodesk and all of its products. If you've drawn something in the newest version of AutoCAD or Revit or Inventor or AutoCAD Plant 3D, if you've drawn it in 2026, an older program cannot open that file. But if you draw in an older program, newer programs can open those. So that's one way they get you to buy their new subscriptions every year for one. And most manufacturers do pay for the seats, uh, I would say design and drafting groups pay for the seats there, and then they just re-upgrade and they probably roll them out in September, and the IT departments like determine if there's going to be any errors, and then they move everybody to 2026, and it's kind of this big thing that usually has to happen at a lot of companies, and it kind of has to be vetted and carefully done. So anyway, I'd encourage you if you can, if you're going to download this at home, just make sure that maybe pick 2025. It'll give you that option if you just look through a dialog, and there should be a little box once I actually go to choose either the latest version or maybe a year or two older. So that's something that normally happens when a student downloads this at home is they download the newest one and they come in here and we're not there yet, so they can't open their file and they can't even convert it. So it just becomes you'd have to create it from scratch. But for a lot of us, it won't matter. We can do what we need to do while we're in here, actually. It's just for future reference for the most part. If you really want to play around at home, yeah. You can always upgrade to a newer one later or get the 2026 version later. There won't be a huge like from year to year, there's not usually huge rollout changes, but they add up after 10 years. There's quite a few changes after 5 or 6 years of revisions. But okay, cool. So that's how you have access as a student, which is kind of cool. I think that's worth knowing. Now we just want to learn what this program really looks like when I go into it. So I've got my CAD up right here. What it's showing me is I've got a bunch of files. This is always like a start menu, we call it. It says start right here. So this is the start menu. Always when you open CAD, it kind of opens to the start menu. Mine is light. I've just customized mine a little, and I'll show you where I did that. Not that you have to. Most people leave theirs dark. And actually, mine is mostly dark. It's just light around the borders. I have felt that it's a little easier to see, especially up on the projector, people. But maybe anyway, you'll see the difference. It's kind of a subtle difference, actually. Other than right now, it might look like it's major different because mine's light and yours is dark, but same program. So I have access to all these old files that I've used recently. This is kind of like recent file access here on the start menu. You have a few like default files loaded just because there's something there to click on. And that's kind of, if you download it at home, and that's one thing I will say, if you do download these, this program is probably, I don't know, 15 gigs of size. And so you got to have enough space on your drive to support, it's like a big video game essentially. And then it needs some, like if you're close to running out of space on your computer and you add 15 more gigs and you've only got like 5 gigs of hard drive space left, it's not going to process very well. So this not only does this take up maybe 15 gigs of space, but then it likes like some empty space ahead of that so it can kind of process data. So this one probably needs, I don't know, 15 gig to store it, 10 gig of like processing space. So to make sure you're not like maxing out how much space you have on a drive when you install these. It would be like a video game too. Like if you did that, your video game just wouldn't run good. It needs like some processing room. Um, like 3D programs are way bigger, like Revit. I don't know, Revit and Inventor, they might take 25 or 30 gig to store the actual program, and they might need 20 gig of like processing space. So they just need some room to operate and not be super laggy. And so anyway, that's just a little information for you if you are looking to download them. So CAD being kind of the lightest weight, it's a pretty small, I mean, relatively 15 gig, pretty small actual program to operate. So even I run AutoCAD on my home computer that's probably 5, 6 years old, 7 years old. It actually still runs it pretty good. It doesn't like the 3D programs, but it likes CAD. 2D CAD works pretty well on it. So that's a factor into this for sure, though. Okay. Now, what we want to do is on the start menu, this is how CAD always loads. And usually what it wants to know is, hey, what are you going to open a file? You're probably going to start with a file, like let's open a file. Well, we don't really have any files to work with. We haven't created anything yet. So, but that's why the main thing that you have access to on the start menu is just to open a file or to create a new file. Maybe I've got a few things here that I can click through. I don't use much of this actually. I can nothing up here is working at all because I'm not even in a drawing yet. I'm just kind of like in the start menu. I can open a drawing from the top. So the only really thing I want to point out here is that we call this very, very top line here, the quick access toolbar. So on the start menu, the only thing you have active from the quick access toolbar is to like open a new drawing, create a new one, or open one. It's pretty much the same thing that's going on here. Maybe I can do some like mobile work or something and a sheet manager. So pretty limited this little drop down menu here. This is really common with how CAD works. There's a lot of little buried drop down menus. And even on this first start menu on the quick access toolbar, there's a little drop down menu. They're checked here. That just means these are actually checked. And this is another normal thing for CAD. This is how you like select things. So the reason why these are even loaded on my quick access toolbar is because they are checked here. And so if I like didn't want to ever do a new one here, I would uncheck it and it disappears here. This is really common with how CAD like loads some of the program and commands into it. You look for these like drop down menus like this. Okay. So right now I just pretty much default have that all loaded. Yours probably does too. Over here it'd be once you make if you download this at home, it's gonna make you make a Autodesk account. It's gonna track you and give you access for a year or something like that. To use ours, you don't even have to sign in on anything. Like because we already have the program loaded, I don't even need to sign into an Autodesk account. The reason why you would want to do that in the future, especially if you become a draft, if you do more of this, is there's resources from Autodesk that I could just pull into my drawings and stuff. Like they have add-ons that I can pull in, and so they won't let you do that unless you're like signed into Autodesk. But right now, I'm just going to say signed out, and all I need to know is that's how you close the program, minimize my screen. Maybe I have a search bar that I don't use too much, but yeah, not a lot going on here. It's ready to open something. And so a few different ways I can open. Yep, I could open from up here. I could open from here. What I'm going to do is create a new one because I'm not opening. Opening means I have an existing drawing to work from. Here, I'm just going to be like you guys. I have nothing. I'm going to start from scratch. And so if you just drop this down, really to create new stuff, it's going to create from a template. And so the first thing I have to teach you guys is that there's a few different file types that you guys will use in CAD. And so if I explain those briefly, there's only three that I really need to know. This one right now, when I bring this down, what it's showing is these .dwt files. These are called drawing template files. So these are CAD drawing template files. What a template is a .dwt file is kind of a parent. Think of this like this is how I explain it is that if I'm making drawings for someone, there's always a title block on a drawing, and you guys know this from your blueprint reading class, right? There's title blocks. There's a bunch of information that goes into title blocks. Sometimes there's a border that's set, and even on your mechanical drawings, you probably drew like a little border of a window, maybe of what you were drawing in there. So yeah, that's kind of building a template. Well, templates get pretty advanced in CAD and in drawing worlds in general. There's a lot of data that has to be included pretty much redundantly on drawing after drawing. So what I do is I create a template and then it's kind of like the parent. It's a .dwt file, and I don't like start drawing in my template. My template really just houses my title blocks and my formatting that I've done, so that my dimension styles. If I have to actually dimension something, it's all preloaded. So it's what we call front loading. And it's like a time saving thing. It's going to take me a lot of time to create a template and have it like customized like in an industry, we may have to be following like an ASME standard, so there's real strict things on drawings. The text size has to be the right size. The dimension styles matter. All my font and all this thing is really controlled. And so I do all that like front loading and I do it in a DWT file. And now it's ready to create drawings from it. So we kind of store those and we protect them. And someone in engineering and drafting will probably be over those templates and controlling them, making sure they don't get like somebody doesn't mess them up. So they usually lock people down out of like being able to like modify the template files. But we can create them. That's generally how new stuff is created, is from a template. And from that, those parents, those templates, they can create children. and that becomes a .dwg file. And that's cool. A .dwg file just means it was created from a template, and now I can draw my heart's away on it. I can do like dimensions. I can draw all the visible lines, all the hidden lines, all the center lines of whatever parts I'm creating. So I make this really data heavy drawing. It's called a DWG file, and it's made from a template file. It's like the children of a template file. And so I've downloaded the template, and then I've created this drawing of a part, and I have this really super data saturated drawing file, DWG file. And then I would save that. That'd be like my master file as like a drafter essentially, or an engineer maybe. From that, I can create a DXF file. And a DXF file is a real simplified drawing that a machine is going to use to interpret and cut. And so we're going to actually, I'm going to open up a DWT file first, and then I'll show you kind of how that would create a DWG file. And then we'll talk about the DXF file when we've actually drawn something and then we're ready to say, hey, let's have our plasma cut this thing. So it's just, I think of going from kind of this, this parent of a DWT file to a drawing file, which has all of my data. It's really a big file type. And then that's not what I want to send to a machine to cut, because maybe there could be some overlying lines that I don't want this machine to interpret. So then I simplify that down to pretty much single line layer stuff like your mechanical drawing stuff used to look, just like one layer drawings. In fact, I even get rid of all the hidden lines and center lines and everything. I just have the lines that the machine is going to cut. And that's called the DXF file. So 3 different file types: DWT, parent; children, DWG; and then what I call is a cut file or a DXF file. So yeah, these things matter. And those are the only 3 you got to know, and I'm not going to test you on it either. So you just got to know. Okay. So what you do, like what CAD wants to do is pretty much start with a DWT. That's why when it goes to say, hey, new, really it's like, yeah, do you want to start with one of these DWT files? Because it knows that you're probably going to start with a parent essentially. I'm just going to have you guys click on browse templates here. So I'm going to say browse templates. These would be preloaded. Like if you download this program on yours computer, CAD's going to load this for you. You're going to have this access to their DWT files, and they look like that. They're red and white little icon. They say DWT. It's nice that they look like that because I can identify them pretty quick when I'm looking at my file manager on my computer. I can be like, hey, there's my DWT files. And what we have is a whole bunch of them. They do different things. Yes, they've created like a starting point to maybe help me get to build my template a little quicker if I pick the right one here. Well, for us, I'm just going to do a CAD. This is just an AutoCAD plain Jane template file. Pretty much no formatting is already preloaded. Just so you know, the ACAD ISO, this is a metric print, and these matter. So this template is in inches or standard units, and our drawing we're going to create is going to be in inches. If I needed to do a metric drawing, it would be an ISO. ISO is this keyword that I for the international standards icon or whatever. That's going to be in millimeters. So the drawing space and everything is going to be formatted for like drawing in millimeters. And if you open that file type and draw in inches, it does not look right. So I'm going to choose this one. If you choose that and just say open, it opens this thing up. And then it should look like this, right? It should open up into this model space, what we call model space right here. So I just want to point out a few things here for you to look at. Now this thing becomes active. Our ribbon menu is all active. We got access to all the commands. So now we need to talk about this. I'm going to get rid of this because you don't have this bar up. This is my properties bar. So yours probably looks like this. So let me talk about this. Let's talk about this. My quick access maybe changed a little bit. So my very top, I'm gonna kind of talk through this top down and get some familiarity of it. Quick access just changed slightly. Maybe it's got save as and a save. I can go to plot and print here. I can still get open and new ones here too. I can have an undo button here. That's kind of handy. Some of your if you know like Microsoft a little bit, or if you've typed and wrote documents, maybe even Google Docs or whatever, right? Like some of the keyboard inputs work here too. Control Z is a pretty common one people use for undo. It works in CAD as well. Control Z is undo. This little undo thing's up on top. I use it up here on top a lot when I'm teaching because I tend not to use a lot of keyboard inputs because you can't see what I typed in from my screen. So I do a lot of like mouse clicking to show you like where I'm looking through these menus. But there's undo. I want to make sure everybody's on drafting and annotation. That should be default anyway, but if you drop down this list here, yeah, I can actually, even in like CAD, it can do 3D based drawing as well. So it can run as a 3D type program, but we're going to run it in just drafting and annotation, which is 2D. Kind of like drafting and annotation is like putting stuff on prints. So I'm going to keep that as drafting annotation. And then pretty much nothing else do I need to know here. I'm not going to sign in. So that's the quick access. Below the quick access are just these tabs that change my ribbon menu. So the home tab has access to probably, I don't know, 70 or 80% of what I need to do is probably right here on my home tab. And it's really got access to a few like shortcuts of the other tabs. Because on my home tab, my ribbon menu is broken up into what I call palettes. So there's a draw palette, then there's a modify palette, there's an annotation palette, there's a layers palette, blocks, properties, groups. These are all specific ones. We're not going to use all these. We're going to need to know draw. We're going to need to know modify and some of the commands in these. We're not going to have to annotate because we're not going to dimension our drawings. We just need to draw a shape and have it cut. When I send you a file, I'll already have built some layers. Like you have nothing right now. Default CAD, it just gives you a 0 layer. And if you drop this down, it's only 1 layer. When I send you my actual drawing, I will have built out a bunch of layers. All layers are is really where I store my different line types is mostly what I think of it. Instead of everything looking like the same type of line, in CAD, we kind of color code it. And there's, there is some industry standards on the color coding, but some industries do their own color coding. So the color is not really particular because usually when you like the prints that you'll use in your life, whether they're, pipe ISOs or whatever, these things are going to be probably black and white delivered to you in black and white. And so we don't like we'll draw with a lot of colors in CAD, but it's mostly just so I can kind of keep my line types kind of separated and keep my drawing kind of broke up so I can kind of keep track of things. So I use color as a strategy in CAD, but really I know that when I build a print, it's going to be printed off in black and white. And so then in your drawing class, you learn the reason why we need different line types is that's how in a black and white print, I'm able to determine different line types. Hidden lines are dashed, a really consistently dashed line. Center lines are like long and short line dashes, kind of a consistent pattern too, and phantom lines. So I'm able to change the line types using the layers essentially. So I know it's called layers, but you can almost consider it like line types is maybe a little more helpful. So it's just like programming a bunch of different line types that I'm going to draw with. And then I color code those so they just kind of pop and stand out a little different. And that's all that is about. So really, you'd have to create this to even start, but we're just on 0. 0 comes as default. Yeah, so we don't have to do anything yet. And when I send you that drawing file, you can open that up and look at it, and we can talk through that next time for sure. I'm going to just keep pounding through this user interface. I know it's kind of a boring first class, but it's necessary. Necessary.
Some of us have some of that bar like Bridge do, mine doesn't. Where it has drafting and annotation.
You do not have this right
I
here.
don't have that next to my little eject.
Do you have this little drop down menu here though? Oh yeah, so open that little drop down. Cool. So it's probably just that it's not loaded maybe, right? So yeah, this little drop down, these are all things that I could potentially load up on my quick access toolbar. So yeah, mine might be like it might be workspace. Let me uncheck my workspace. Yeah, it disappears, right? Yeah, so that's cool. That's cool that I'm glad you pointed that out.
So when you just click on workspace.
Yeah, just if you check workspace, it actually loads that. So yeah, I'm actually glad you pointed that out because that's just the nature of if something is not on a toolbar, it's usually that it needs loaded like that. And the way CAD likes to designate that is if it's checked or not. So technically these ones I don't have loaded, but I could actually load these on my quick access toolbar. It's going to load a little icon just across this top. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad. That's cool. Default will do different things. Like I never know when, what the last person and how they're using it and anyway. So I think that could load different on you every time, but yeah, that's good. And then now that that's loaded, the one thing I want to be is on drafting annotation. So, okay, cool. And the other thing I want to point out before we even leave that again is that you'll notice that when I opened that DWT file, it automatically we're actually in a DWG file now. And that is the nature of a template file. It's going to be like, yeah, I'm going to start from a DWT, but I'm actually creating a DWG. So it actually automatically did that conversion for me. So now that when I go to save this, if I had actually drawn something and save's a pretty common thing or a save as, maybe sometimes the first time I save as and I name it, it's already going to want to be like, I'm already a DWG. I'm a children of a parent is what I've done here. I'm a child. I'm a DWG file. So yeah, you just got to watch that. And it's not something that you have to worry about too much. We're going to be using a DWG file. I just wanted to show you that. Okay. So palettes, we've talked through these. Some of these we're not going to use so much, but we're going to use draw, modify. We'll have to kind of get familiar with the layers. There's a lot of little intricate commands of layers, but we're going to use it pretty basic. Everything I'm going to show you here is pretty 101 level stuff, right? Like I'm trying to keep it simple, stupid. It helps me too, actually. So it's not you, it's me. But annotation is a quick access to a different. I mean, we have a really robust annotate tab here, but this is a quick access to like dimensioning. Something else we're not going to worry about. I might show you a little bit about some of the properties. I can use this to my advantage. It kind of to me it functions as kind of a modify palette as well. And then yeah, I do some measurements. Like when I draw stuff, this is and for us, and us as fabricators and whatever, we're used to measuring stuff, making sure stuff's right size. So this is my I have access to like a quick way to measure stuff or just this particular point to point measurement, radiuses, angles. So I use this utilities palette quite a bit for my measurement drop downs here. And then later we'll maybe bring in some imagery if we want to customize our stuff later towards the end of class. But yeah, so this is just called your ribbon menu. And these are different palettes. And that's just the home tab. So if I go over to the insert tab, it's got a whole different ribbon menu. It's kind of like a word process, it's kind of like it's like Word or Excel if you've used any of those programs. They're very similarly set up for sure. And so we won't do much with the insert tab. I don't even think we'll do much with it. I might show you that we could bring in some art that way too, but there's insert, annotate. Drafting and designers use a lot. This is my main robust, like how I dimension stuff tab. My annotations are like words and dimensions. Parametric is a whole different type of way of drawing stuff, and we won't get into that either. That's okay though. It's a little bit more akin to 3D modeling here. So parametric, and then view tab, we won't use much either, but I do have a bunch of stuff on the view tab. Manage is maybe how I'm outputting and inputting stuff, or I don't know what else here. Yeah, okay. Here's outputs. So we have an output, how we're going to plot batch stuff. Okay. Collaborate. We're not going to do any major like cloud collaboration here. So really all we're going to need is really the home tab. It's really, like I said, it's 70, 80, maybe 90% of what I do is on the home tab. So cool. Right below the home tab these are where the drawings that I have open will display. And so right now, yeah, I can always go back to that start menu right here and or start a new one or get into my files or whatever. Here's my drawing that I opened from that DWT file. That's now a DWG file. You can actually hit the plus button. I think it'll make like a copy of this last one that you have open. I think so. If I click this again, I think it's just another DWG file, right? And this is if I had a bunch of files open, and that's normally like a drafter, an engineer might have like 15 drawings open or something, right? They might have. So I routinely have quite a few open that I'm jumping from one to the other on whatever I'm working on that day. So this gets pretty busy with all your drawings. One thing to note is that, of course, if I actually go to save this and give it a name, then that name will show up right here. It's just giving me a unique name. Every time I would click this, it would be like, well, here's drawing 4, because it has to give it a unique name in order to even save it. And so once I actually did a save as, it would actually say, oh, okay, what do you want to save this as? And I would give it a name, and then that name's going to show up. I don't need you to do this yet, because anything we're going to do today, we're probably not going to save. But yeah. So this is how I would work and save a document. If it has a little asterisk, this is a really little hidden thing here, but if it shows the drawing name plus a little asterisk here, that just means something has been done on that hasn't been saved. That's essentially, and really something that has been done could be simply scrolling in and out. And then it needs to know it needs to be saved. So every little thing that you do in the model space there is kind of going to be tracked, and the computer's kind of keeping track of that. So if you see those little asterisks, though, it's just a good idea that, oh, I haven't saved that drawing. If I'm going to go to close it, usually when you go to close a drawing, it's always going to say, do you want to save it? Especially if it's been modified, it'll always say, do you want to save it? That one didn't on me, actually. Yeah, it'll actually, let me go here and I'll like zoom in and out a little bit there. It's like that. Now, if I go to close it, it'll be like, do you want to save changes? Nah, I don't need to save that. But usually if it has an asterisk, it's going to get this dialog box to tell you, hey, save before you close. You may have done work that's not captured. So, okay, that's for my drawings. Then I'm into my model space. So let's talk through this. What you're looking at is something that could do, it's like as big as the universe model space. So it has an XY. This is to help you kind of keep your bearing a little bit. Like I never try to lose my orientation to XY. This is kind of 0, 0. Your math, your math and your coordinate math is going to come back and haunt you now here. That here's X and Y, and so it just has a 0, 0 point. However, I could draw the galaxy in here, right? I could actually plot the solar system and draw that here. It's that big. Like this drawing space is unlimited size wise. It pretty much goes on for infinite. Plus, I could go really far down and small, and I could draw microbiology, cell structures, or whatever. I could actually make drawings for that. So this thing is like, yeah, I can draw this how this is a total blank canvas to start with. Um, so what gets kind of confusing about navigating this, and it's so my right hand's on my mouse, right? And your mouse does is how I get around this thing. Obviously, I can just move my mouse around. That moves my cursor. Your zoom is just your scroll wheel. So I can actually like wherever you're like scoped into, this is so I also feel like my cursor is also like my where I'm looking, or is my scope. And so if you scroll in, it's just going to scroll in like where your cursor is. So if I'm scrolling over here, that's why my X and Y thing disappears because it's kind of and so I just scroll in to scroll in and I scroll out to scroll out, right? And really I just keep scrolling out. I mean I can like move this in or out and it's hard to know whether or not it's hard to know with just looking like this. It's hard to know if I'm zoomed way in or if I'm zoomed way out. You usually don't know that till you draw something and you'll see that you're either zoomed way in or way out. So the way you kind of get back to maybe a normal space is if you double click your scroll wheel. If I double click this, it's going to like zoom in to maybe what it does is it zooms into like whatever I've drawn. In this case, I haven't drawn anything, so it's just going to zoom in to maybe so I can see the grid squares here pretty close. And it looks like graph paper, and that's pretty standard. I can turn that on and off, but I'll show you how in just a minute. But normally default's going to be to have this like graph looking paper up and that I can see X and Y. So double click is kind of a zoom all or a zoom with that double, I should say double scroll click. You're clicking on the scroll wheel actually. And then pan is if you hold the scroll wheel down, your little hand shows up. This is how I can actually just pan around a drawing and not like zoom in or out. So I can just click the scroll wheel, hold, that's pan, scroll in and out wherever my scoped into. So it's just like a video game. It takes it takes a minute to get good at navigating how to look at stuff and how to be, it's easy to get lost in space when you have nothing drawn for sure. So right click is always like a right click is always like usually opens like a sub menu on a lot of different stuff. So the right click menu changes depending on what you're doing at the time. So right now I'm like doing nothing. I just right clicked in the empty space and it gives me like, oh, this little drop down menu. So it is pretty common for me to use the right click menu a lot. Left click is how I actually accept commands, right? And actually how I draw stuff is with my left click or my index finger on my right hand. And yeah. The other thing, there is some ergonomics to this, is my right hand is usually always on this mouse, my normal mouse. And then my left hand is usually on the keyboard because like a lot of CAD is like keyboard inputs and then clicking around with your mouse. Additionally, you guys have a 3D mouse, but we're not going to even use that. It's that other mouse on your left hand. So it'll do some things. It functions like it kind of has like a zoom function is all it can do in 2D CAD. It can like zoom in and out. But yeah, that's kind of like a Joey stick over there or whatever. And when you're in a 3D program, my hands are usually not on the keyboard, and I got one hand on the 3D mouse. And I think with the last group, I just brought up something that I had maybe in it. This is a 3D program. You can also download this one. This is called Autodesk Inventor, and it's a pretty standard drawing piece of software for 3D modeling. But I think I have like this. I'm just bringing this up just for information only more. I think this thing will open. I don't know. Maybe I haven't opened it in a
Oh,
while.
a joystick?
I call it maybe a joystick. Is that a funny old term? Like if I think of the old like video controls, a joystick. Yeah, what a weird term that is though, huh? Joystick. Okay, has anybody ever heard that? Is that weird? Yeah, it's weird. I feel like some of the old like video game controllers they started adding they used to always just be like cursor key or they used to have the little arrows to navigate and then you get the one with the joystick and you were like, oh man, you never lived life. Super Mario Brothers with a joystick, not just the yeah. So my 3D mouse allows me to do this is what it does. Like I'm in a 3D program. I like actually have like an actual artifact that's 3D that I can look at. I am navigating, I am like rolling around this thing with my 3D mouse. So the nature of a 3D program is my one hand will be on a 3D mouse if you have it, and the other hand will be on your normal mouse. So I use my hand kind of breaks away from the keyboard when I'm running a 3D program with a 3D mouse. I just wanted to show you that when I'm in my 2D program, usually my hand is on the keyboard doing some data input. So my left hand's on my keyboard, my right hand's on my normal mouse, and that's kind of how I fly. Yeah. I do a lot of data inputs from my keyboard with the little 10 keypad, the little keyboard that's over there to the right of the keyboard. You have to have number lock on or num lock on. The little light comes on. But that's how I input a lot of my measurement data that I need, like when I'm drawing things true to length and I'm entering the data. So that's the other thing to know about this model space that you're in, this black grid paper. I draw things the true size they are. So if I'm drawing a house, I draw it 1-to-1 size. I don't scale it. I don't have to do all this scaling thought. AutoCAD will scale things for our drawings once we go to put things on drawings. But for just drawing, and I'm actually going to draw this real size. That way, when I make a DXF file from it for your machine to cut, it's just a 1-to-1 size. It's going to cut it exactly the size I drew it. So I don't have to do it. I don't have to do any scaling in the Plasma program to make it be the right size. I mean, you can do that. You're just adding additional complications on yourself. So it's normal for all of us in drafting and design to draw things in their true size, 1-to-1. So. Okay, cool. And then in here, you also have this navigation wheel. So, and let's see here. So it's got a home button. This isn't going to, I don't usually home this way. This is going to home knowing that this thing is able to draw in 3D. So if you click home, it like changes. I get the Z axis that shows up. So now it looks like it wants me to draw in 3D. And so, I mean, you can click on this and mess around and get yourself all spun around backwards. It's fine because this navigation wheel kind of helps you get back to the correct orientation. We were actually drawing on what is called the top of the cube here. Top is just like keeping X and Y, and they're kind of like the way we probably learned our math and this XY coordinate system here is really looking at a top view. If I scroll this, here's the front view, but it's actually a ZX plane of access here. And then I can even, I mean, so I can get like I just use this navigation wheel sometimes to roll around my geometry.
Remember, planes, guys?
Oh yeah, did you guys mess with planes?
60. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, this kind of does show up at like a 30-degree angle here. Yeah, isometric. Yeah, totally.
yeah.
Yeah. And you can orient your grid like that here to draw like that actually. So absolutely. So I'm going to stay on the top plane essentially with north being up, northeast, south, and west, just like they should be with X and Y this way. Okay, so and that's good. And this other little one I don't use as much, but some of them are more 3D. Like here's pan, but I don't usually use pan this way. Usually I use it. Oh, and let me tell you one more thing. Escape is your friend. Like, so that top button, top left of the keyboard is ESC, escape. That's usually how I get into something. So if I had clicked into this command by clicking on it, you can get out of it by hitting escape. Escape is how I get out of commands. I'm hitting escape a lot. If I get into a command accidentally, or if I'm done using a command, I just hit escape. Enter and escape kind of work interchangeably in some ways, and we'll talk about that. But my keyboard, so my hand on my keyboard is hitting escape a lot. It's hitting enter a lot. It's hitting delete a lot. And then it's entering numbers a lot. So just kind of become familiar. If you don't use a keyboard much, remind yourself where your delete and your enter and your escape buttons are. Those are going to be your friends for sure. So, okay, cool. So yeah, if you ever go into any command, you can just hit escape to get out of it. Excellent. Okay. And let me just keep, so what you've got going on towards the bottom of your screen is a command line. Usually it's giving you like some like instructional prompts there on what you can do with the command, or sometimes it's giving you like some information that helps you know what to do next or what you've just finished doing. Like it's important to kind of remember to read across here everything that you do and enter, even me going into those and then exiting them. You can see that it's kind of keeping a running list of what I've done. So this is our command line, we call it, and we need to remember to pay attention to it. It's kind of a helpful thing. Sometimes even I forget to pay attention and I wonder what the heck I'm supposed to do with my command. Usually there's a prompt in that line, in that dialog box that's trying to help you use the command right. And then below that is what we call the status bar. And it's kind of broken up in halves. Like the status bar is really more of this stuff over to the right side here. All these little like, well, I call them hieroglyphics. They're just like symbols that you got to learn what the heck they mean. I mean, that's the nature of the ribbon menu too. They're mostly like a symbol associated with a command here. So you start to learn some of the symbols. You start to memorize what some of these symbols are, just the more you use it. Right now, they all look foreign. You don't even know what the heck they are. But this status bar functions like your top user interface up here, or the quick access toolbar. In that clear to the freaking right of it is 3 lines. It's an expandable list. And this is this list of things that I can load onto the status bar. So this gets confusing because there's just a lot that we use and there's a lot we don't use. And so I kind of have like this random array of stuff. And you don't have to have all these checked, even if you're watching me. We don't necessarily need all of these checked, but each one is kind of an icon that's showing up down here. So it's kind of like this list where maybe I can say, um, like maybe I'd say, oh, I don't want the grid anymore. And that's actually the first one that's on. First one is model space. I'm going to keep that because it just says model. It's kind of this like, it cues me in that I'm in model space. It seems like, well, what the hell does that mean? It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it too much, but I have my model space. And then the grid, if I uncheck my grid, it just disappears from the status bar. And if I snap it on again, yeah, it shows up. What the grid is actually that grid. It's like the graph looking grid paper. So okay, so let's keep going here. So I have that on. I have some other things on. So we'll talk about these specifically when we get drawing, if what may or may not be on for you. So don't worry about it too much. But what I do want to say is once you've loaded something, it doesn't mean that it's turned on. That's the other thing that's kind of goofy is that it has to be blue, highlighted blue for it to be on. And so if I turn this off, it actually turns off my grid. If I click that and it's grayed out, it means my grid is turned off. If I turn that back on, it's on. So that one does that. Maybe I'll talk about a few of these. If that one is turned on, I see my graph paper. I generally draw with my graph paper on. It's kind of like this thing that I can check that I'm oriented like vertically and horizontally. It's just this thing that kind of helps me draw, keep my bearings while I'm drawing. The next one over that may or may not be loaded is just like the snap mode here, the snap mode. If you don't have that loaded, it looks like a bunch of dots there. What snap mode does is there's also like a little expandable menu next to snap mode. It's a small menu, but it's like polar snap, grid snap, or the snap settings. What I just wanted to show you while I'm here, if you've loaded this snap one up to your status bar, I don't have mine turned on, but if I go to the snap settings, and this is really common, like you'll get these dialog box on, I call these a dialog box that just popped up. So this is like some specific programmability of these snap settings. I just wanted to show you that what's actually the thing that's kind of cool here is that the grid spacing or so my graph paper is actually a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. So my graph paper that I'm seeing here, these are 1/2 inch increments. So that can kind of be helpful to know is like what are the default grid spacings? Well, they're 1/2 inch. Can you change them? Yeah, you can. I typically don't. I don't have to draw on those graph spacings, but what the snap settings are doing if you have grid snap selected and it's turned on like blue, what that does is if you're actually in a command, it'll kind of look like it's joggy like this because it's kind of keeping me snapping to that grid. And people used to draw like this, and sometimes there are some reasons why I need to draw this for specific prints. In our case, we won't need to worry about if we're snapped to the grid whatsoever. So I generally will keep mine on what's called a polar snap. And then I don't even usually turn it on that much, but polar snap allows me to actually snap outside of those grids. But just so you know, that can't, if you feel like it's laggy and weird and jogging around like that when we start drawing, it could be that the snap thing, you're trying to snap to grid or this snap is turned on. I usually keep mine loaded on the status bar just so I can keep an eye on it so it doesn't bug me. But the next one over, if you may or may not have this, I will talk about this one too, is I don't have infer constraints on. It would look like that if I did. So I have that one unchecked. But I have dynamic input. It's the next one down on the list. And I do feel like this list, if you check them on, they'll kind of be in that order from like right to left here. So that's kind of nice to know. So the dynamic input is one that I do like to have on. So I have it loaded. Plus, I have it down here, and I say this every time. This reminds me of a wizard's wand with a plus. I do not know why. I feel like it's like a magic spell or something. But you just learn the hieroglyphics, whatever makes sense to you. This is dynamic input. We'll talk about what that does when we get into command. But I usually always have this one on. The next one I have loaded is like a right angle. It's called ortho mode. It just looks like a right angle with a little square. It's called ortho mode here. I've got that loaded. I've got polar tracking loaded, which looks like a circle with an angle in it. And it has an expandable menu, so it gets more complicated than that. So there's polar tracking. Isometric drawing I have up. So this is actually what will it'll turn your grid into an isometric drawing. So if I actually come out here and click that, if you have it loaded and I turn it on, it goes into 30-degree angles right there. So it turned my grid. It stayed X and Y kind of located, but my grid is at an isometric angle now. So we're not going to draw with that though either. I'm going to turn that off. I have it loaded, but I don't have it on. The next one we have is I have object snap tracking, which does look like an angle with a little dot in it. I definitely want that one loaded to my status bar and turned on. So that's object snap tracking. I've got that one loaded. and I've got my 2D object snaps loaded. It's a square with it's a square within a square kind of, and it has a super big expandable list with it as well. So for all of us and what we are doing, that's all I really need to worry about for us. So anything else that I have loaded, you don't even need to load. Doesn't even matter if it's on or off. If anything else is if you have anything else down here and it's turned on, that's probably fine. Um, one that I do make sure that I don't turn on is just like line weights. This is considered show and hide line weights. If it's loaded, it looks like kind of like a yeah, it looks like a paragraph sign or something. Thick and thin lines here. I make sure that one's turned off. Otherwise, you're going to draw with the line weights. And actually, when we draw, we like our line weights to be turned off. So all my lines will kind of look the same. They'll have different line types and colors as I make them. But the line weights, I don't really want to draw with the line weight turned on. It gets a little bit confusing looking because you'll get thicker and thinner lines. We want it to print that way, but we don't want it. We don't usually draw with the line weights turned on. They're just it feels odd. And so you won't know that till you actually try it, and maybe we can mess around with it. But okay, so that's that side of the status bar. The other side is actually just this like model space. It has it's clear to the left, it has an expandable list too, which is mostly for printing and like making prints, which we're also not going to do. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But model space is what I'm in when I've got my black background behind me. Layout looks like a piece of paper. And so really every time you open a drawing, it's always going to give you like two layouts. Just by default, it gives you like two pieces of paper. I mean, you can create more with that plus button, kind of like creating new drawings up above that. So technically what I have going on here is I'm like in a drawing. This might have a drawing name, but it might have like 10 sheets associated with this drawing. So these are just the sheets of the drawing. So every drawing could have different numbers of sheets down here. But really they're not even formatted. In a default mode, this doesn't like this looks like a piece of paper. You might think it's a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. It's really nothing. It is just like an unformatted piece of paper. So really, we always have to spend some time front loading to actually create prints. It's a whole thing. We don't even need to worry about it. But well, mostly we're going to do all of our drawing in model space here. So, and when we export our file to the plasma cutter, it's just going to be from a model space one-to-one drawing. I'm going to export to that, make a DXF file, and the machine's going to be able to cut it. So I don't even need to worry about putting it on paper actually. So
Did we have our ad scale to an alternative object, but no.
which one is this?
It looks like a little star with a lightning bolt.
Oh, right here. Oh yeah, these are really good. These really they really impact somebody going from model space to an actual piece of paper more than they will us. But they look like windmills. Yeah, they look like Chinese stars. Yeah. So mine are turned on because I'm more going, like later after this class, I'll be probably doing drawings. What those are is they're automatic updates when I go from a drawing that's in one-to-one. Sorry, when I go from a model space that's in one-to-one and I go to a drawing that maybe is at a half scale, it's half size to be able to fit on my sheet. This thing will automatically do some of the scaling adjustments for my dimensions, my text. So that's what that is about. So that's a good question though. Yeah, these are some of the AI automation that's in CAD. It'll actually do some of the scaling for me so that things that like a 60-foot wide house won't fit on a piece of paper, but with a scale associated with it, it will. And this will automatically scale my stuff for me. So good question. Thank you. Yeah, we're going to be on one-to-one. So make sure you don't change this. When you're in your model space, do not change this scale. Keep this one-to-one. So make sure with model and you're in model, model, everything is one-to-one. Don't mix this up. Otherwise, it will affect your cut file. It's going to be like a half scale or something, and then the machine might interpret it if you change the scale. So as a note, we don't change our models. We model in one-to-one. So true to size, which makes it easy. So then you don't have to like think scaling as you draw kind of, but all right. So we got paper. Mostly we just need to know model. That is really the user interface. So dang, we've just covered all. We actually are kind of ready to draw. So let's do that. Let's spend some time just like clicking away and drawing some stuff. Even if you already have, it's good. Like I don't care what you're doing at all. I mean, I'm just wanting to explain that to you. Now I'll kind of go through and explain how these commands work because with the commands, they're just goofy, like a video game. Just got to learn how they operate. They're just kind of like an order of operations to some of these commands. So let's go. I'll just work from kind of like ribbon menu over here, right to left until we're out of time pretty much. And let's go through. So a line works like this. You just click line. Because my dynamic input is on, that's that little Potter's wizard wand here. If I turn that off, I really don't get like a dialog box. I'm like in the line command. I'm not getting any like dialog box. So I like this turned on because I get this like it looks like this now. It kind of gives me this little indicator like specify the first point plus what I'm looking at as these dialog boxes that I'm calling. One's highlighted blue, one's gray. Those are the X and Y coordinates is what those are. So just so you remember your math a little bit, right? If you're in this quadrant of X and Y values are positive. If I move over here, X is negative, Y is positive. If I move down here, this is negative, negative quadrant, and this is positive X, positive Y. So what you're looking at is the first dialog box is the X coordinate. The second one is your Y. Like I'm not going to draw by coordinates necessarily. I don't really care what my coordinates are. Usually when I draw, I usually pick a quadrant to draw in, and mostly when it doesn't even matter, I actually usually draw in the positive, positive coordinate. I usually keep track of my origin and I draw in this kind of quadrant. But I don't have to. And in some cases, some machine drawings, there'll be a strategy in what coordinate you will put it at. Sometimes when you're building drawings for like machinists and the G code is going to be coming from your drawing, maybe it matters what coordinate I'm starting with. There might be a 0, 0 point the machinist wants this part designed around. So that's where that matters to me. For us, I don't care where we draw. Generally, when it doesn't matter to me, I'm going to draw in a positive quadrant though. So I'm going to draw up here somewhere. So a line is just that. It's like you pick the line command. It wants to know where you want to start. Well, here it is. I'm going to click here. So I just left click there. And here is a line, right? And what I'm getting now is the readout of how long that line is. So how you know once you're if you were like let me do like one error thing. It's like I'd be like zooming around here and I've like zoomed out way out. I can still see my X and Y. So I feel like I don't know where I'm at in this. But if you click line, and I click a point and I start look how far out I am. This line is like I don't know how many millions of inches long or whatever. This if I see that when I know that I am zoomed way the freak out, right? Like I'm out into the solar system. So just be to have that dynamic input on is really helpful because I get this readout of like, oh, I couldn't tell that I was zoomed way out, but if I go to draw this, I'm going to be way the heck out there. I mean, this line right here is super long, super long. So even to be able to draw like even a 12-inch long ruler length line, I'd have to like zoom way in. So I'm sitting here like zooming in. Yeah, if I find myself like drawing way out here in space like that, I will definitely get out of that command, get my bearings, double click my scroll wheel, and then I should be in like zoomed into like a normal. Now when I click line command, yeah, see, I'm only drawing like a 3.5-inch line here now. So that just kind of matters. Like when you start drawing, then you have some geometry to kind of get your bearings around. Just make sure you're not zoomed way, way out or way, way in and try to start drawing that, right? It's the same opposite. I mean, the opposite is true too. If you zoom way in here and you try to draw this line, well, you're not even drawing a line that's even registering in 4 decimal places yet. So you're zoomed way the heck in right now. So I would get out of that command, double click my scroll wheel, get this thing like maybe if it will, there it is. Just keep double clicking your scroll wheel till it works for you. But so I like to be about in the size window that I'm going to draw in, right? So maybe I'm drawing like 12 foot or 24-inch long stuff or something here. But here's a line. What's going on here is I've left clicked any point here. How we draw things like in true like sometimes vertical or horizontal alignment. I have this like green thing showing up when I'm in those like it's snapping to those increments. That's because I have this I think it's because I have the snap tracking on, or maybe my ortho, one of these. Let me turn them off. I don't know. This one first. If I turn that off, yeah, I lose that like green tracking. So if you pick a line and it's like not snapping to anything, it's hard to draw accurate for one. Like we tend to like want to snap to stuff to make sure our geometry is connected, to make sure things are truly vertical, that I don't have things slightly crooked or whatever. So I don't usually draw like out here with no controls on. And the main control I need to have on is like this one for sure. This like polar tracking. That's when I start to get these things showing up. Why, when I come over here, I definitely get like perfectly horizontal and perfectly vertical. Why I'm getting these other ones to snap to like this when I scroll over from vertical to horizontal, these other rays are kind of showing up, like 45 degrees showing up there. That's because if you click this like expanded list next to this snap tracking here, we can have like these different snaps kind of show up all the way down to 5-degree increments. and all the way as coarse as 90-degree increments or even coarser. So I don't know what yours default set on. Mine probably I used it and I used it on 45s last, but like if I click this down to 5, let me do that again, sorry. If I click 5, then what's going to happen is every time I move 5 degrees, I'm going to get like I'm going to get an accurate snap to those degrees. So if I see that green ray shine light up, I can be pretty assured that the program's going to keep me in that angular alignment perfectly. Like 5 degree gets really annoying. It gets kind of joggy. I tend to run mine probably at like 30, 60s, 90s. And every once if I need 45s, I'll turn them on. But I'm continually doing this. Like when I'm drawing stuff in geometry to specific degrees, I am like making sure of what I can snap to. And so yeah, here's like so I'm and 3060s are pretty nice, not super fine. So anyway, that's how I would draw that line. When you draw a line, let me just show you this. You draw a line, you pick anywhere, you pick however long it is. I'm going to draw a horizontal line. The line command, like I've clicked and then I've clicked again. So I didn't really set a length or whatever. I just clicked and clicked. It's a line. Line command is a continuous command. It knows that you're probably drawing geometry and it's just going to continue to allow you to like, okay, once you click, it's still open. Once you click, it's still open. Once you click, it's still open. It allows you to like keep like making shapes as you go around. How you get that turned off is you can always hit escape. Enter also works when you're in a command like this. Enter kind of works as escape, which is kind of weird, but that's the way it is. It's like you finish drawing. Enter is how you kind of finish drawing as well. So I probably use enter a lot just because my hands over on this like 10 key pad where I'm putting in numbers and then there's an entered button right there. So I tend to like use enter to escape commands a lot. What else about a line? Well, a line, well, that's about it, I guess. I think so. If I want to draw a line a specific length, I would click wherever I want to start that line. Maybe I'll draw a vertical line that's like 6 inches. Well, you have control over that dialog box that's highlighted blue. You can just type in 6 inches there and then hit enter, and it will draw that line 6 inches long. So that's how I draw an accurate length line, is I input the number that I want it to be. So I'm always constantly usually drawing things accurately. So most of the geometry that I draw and that we will draw, it really has a length associated with it that I'm typing in. So it's not just some random thing that I try to figure out later. No, I usually draw it with the actual lengths that I need. And so I'm usually working from a drawing or I'm working from something that I'm referencing. And you will. Next time I'll print out a drawing for you to work from. So anyway, if I needed to go 4 over, I'd go 4 over. Excellent. If I need to go vertical down, I could draw that 3. So anyway, just drawing with those keyboard inputs. Enter means escape the command. Additionally confusing is AutoCAD has a quick way to go right back into the last command you used. So let's say I was done drawing this shape, but then I want to go back here and draw some more lines down on this one. Enter goes back into the last command you just used. So if I hit enter, I'm back into a line command now. And here I could continue this one and draw, and then enter would be to escape. Enter back in for line. Maybe I got to hook these two together. There we go. Those didn't connect, by the way, but that's interesting. So, okay, that's just me drawing with a line. Polyline is a fancier line. Like if I look at line, I look at my command line, it just wants to know the first point. Polyline, if you select polyline, you come down, it still wants to know the first point. So let me just start that. But a polyline is able to do arcs. If I'm looking at my command line down here, it's able to do arcs and a lot of different type of geometry. So we'll probably draw with lines mostly, and I can turn stuff into a polyline later, but a polyline is just a more complicated line. And we'll talk about that next time when we start drawing, that I can turn stuff into it. Well, if I just draw with it for just a second, let me just show you. It seems like and I'll just draw, I won't make any arcs or anything. I'll just do a line to a line to a line. Oh, and here's one thing. If I wanted to connect this to itself, I could like cursor over here, target that point. I'm not clicking, but if I pull away, that object's tracking allows me to like almost reference a point. I'm not clicking on the point. I'm just like referencing it. So you'll find in CAD, a lot of times I'm just referencing some geometry and then I'm able to pull away from it. If yours isn't showing up like mine is, I'll show you why in just a second, but I'm going to connect this together real quick. Hit enter. Difference in when I drew this by lines is each line is kind of an individual piece of geometry. When I select it like this, that's just me clicking on it. I'm not in a command at all. I just come back in and I'm selecting this geometry that I drew. It has like these points. These are called grips. I can grab this line by those grips, and a line is going to have a midpoint and endpoints. That's just the common grips that are associated with a line. So like I can come in here to a grip and move it by its grip. I can actually click on it, and now I have what's called a hot grip. It's gone red. And this is how I could like stretch things longer. I could pull things out of alignment. So with your grips, you can get kind of scary moving stuff and moving things out of alignment for sure. And so you got to be careful moving a hot grip. You could definitely pull things and you were unaware that you moved it out of alignment. And so be careful with grips. Um, but everything has a grip. What I noticed when I drew this by polyline, though, if I select it, it's actually a single selection and it selects the entire thing. That's one difference in a polyline to a line is it kind of makes what we call closed polygons. I mean, a rectangle is a polygon. So, and it's single selectable. So instead of being a bunch of segmented pieces, it's all one uniform piece. The reason why I show you this is because your machine, like your plasma, loves to cut things that are connected like this. It will cut stuff like this and you may think it's connected, but if you zoomed in on this particular part of mine where I wasn't connected, these are not connected. Machines don't like this. They won't cut there. You didn't connect those lines to, like when I drew this, I didn't connect the lines together. So the machine's going to cut that just like that. And so usually you'll see me draw with lines when we go to draw next time, but sometimes I turn my lines and I join them into like this like single selected geometry. That way I know that everything is connected. I know that the machine, when it goes to cut this, is going to be able to cut these lines and it's not going to be having broken stuff that's not intersecting itself, or it's not going to have extra lines drawn over itself. So yeah. Anyway, the reason why this is drawn white, by the way, is just because layer 0 is default white, and that's why I can see it, which is nice. I mean, at least they made that so it's not black and not showing up. But okay, that's line, polyline. Circles get kind of complicated, right? I got a lot of different ways I can decide a circle, tangent, tangent radius, 3 point, 2 point, center diameter, center radius. The default kind of command for circles is center radius in CAD. So if I want to draw a circle, it just wants to know, hey, what's your center point of circle? Well, right here. How big is your circle? This is by radius. So if I just said 6-inch radius, that's a 12-inch diameter circle, right? So play with the circle command for sure. Arcs get really complicated, man. We can just do so many different type of arc drawings. We probably won't use them a lot. But they are good geometry. They can be helpful. I think in our particular part, we don't need to draw anything by an arc. We can draw things by a circle and trim it. But so arcs are complicated for sure. What else is on here? We can do a polygon or a rectangle. So mine was on polygon last. Whatever you use last is what's going to be in this little like dialog box, if there is a dialog box with the command. That's why. So whatever, if I would have used center diameter, circle diameter last, it would be if I selected, it's already into a circle diameter type. So it's going to load the last type that you used. So a rectangle by rectangle, I got 5 more minutes. I'm going to use it to the end here. Rectangle with a rectangle command. If I choose that, not polygon, but rectangle, it kind of shows you the hieroglyphic imagery shows you're going to select 2 points on a rectangle is what you're going to do. And it's going to be a closed polygon. So I could have drawn this with a point. So I click and then I pull away and it's going to draw a rectangle. I can either draw a rectangle down or up. Yeah. Rectangle by just using the rectangle command. It's kind of a closed polygon as well, like single line selection to show that it's all closed. Yeah. What else? An ellipse? Yeah, we don't have to do all that mathematics to figure out how to draw our ellipse. We can actually just, if I have some construction line work, I could maybe figure out what the major and minor axis of the ellipse are and draw an elliptical arc here with an ellipse command. That's cool. And I can do some hatching, which is maybe like turning, like if I have a closed polygon, I can choose to like apply hatching to the pattern there. Of course, it has to be closed polygon because it has to have like a border around it, like a fence around it to know what you're going to hatch. We won't use much of that either, but the drawing that I send you next time that we open up, it'll have some imagery preloaded in it and it'll have some hatching that's been done. And it's really mostly so I can kind of show you like the concept of graphic art and when things are either cut out and kept or cut out and dropped when you cut things out. So sometimes I use hatching to show that. If I go to the modify command, let's jump over there and do a few commands, and I'll just work these around. They just kind of have a different order of operations. Usually a modify command, in order to even use it, I have to have geometry to work with, right? Like it's a modify of geometry command. So there's nothing to do with modify unless you've got something to work with. So I've got a bunch of crap up here on the screen. So a move works like this. I can select move, and generally my order of operations with commands are choose the command, choose what you want to do with it, right? So that's just how I did my circles and my lines. I chose them and I chose what I wanted to do with them. Same way with move. I'm going to choose move, and then it always says, hey, what do you want to do? Like my command line says select objects. Well, maybe I want to move this circle. So I'm going to move this. You know you've selected it when it goes electric blue like this. And really, it'll allow me to select a bunch of stuff. If I wanted to move this plus this little piece of line, I can keep selecting geometry, whatever I'm going to move. If I've chosen something that I don't want to select, I just hold down Shift on the keyboard and then re-choose it, and it will deselect it essentially. So that's, the move command is ready, and it's similar to some other commands. It's ready to just keep selecting geometry. If you select geometry you don't want to use, you can just hold down Shift and deselect it. Once you've selected move, you can hit enter. That's how I say, and then it says, well, where do you want to move it by? It wants to know a base point to move things by. So I don't know, there, like your geometry on your circle has quadrants and it has a center. So it just wants to know, hey, I'm going to move it over here. Hey, this is me. I selected this as the base point. Now I can see I have a control of this to move it. So that's a it kind of shadows where you were and it shows you where you're going. So that's kind of how a move command. Once I click that again, left click it essentially, it moved it over there. So one thing, the last thing I want to show you is that I didn't explain is that the one thing you have access to just in here is just the a window grab um, to select geometry. Or anyway, what I want to show you is if you just select out here in no man's land here out in the middle of nowhere, I've actually left clicked and then started pulling away, and it's creating this blue window, or what we call just a window grab. This how this works is I'm just out here in nowhere. I'm clicking here. If I drag and pull this across geometry, it's a way to select it. When it's blue, when you have a blue crossing window like this, it has to capture all of the geometry to select it. Like the blue window grab does not work if I only cover partial geometry. And this is just me clicking once and then pulling away. It's like this rectangular like box in order to select. So blue, it has to completely grab everything if you want to select it. Blue also works if you click and hold, and it's like a lasso here, like this, right? Like this is just me clicking and holding to select geometry rather than clicking and clicking. So it's either a rectangular grab or it's kind of like I could come in here with a lasso type grab and select that geometry. If it's showing up green, it means you're going the other way. You're actually like dragging like left to, or yeah, right to left. This is me moving left to right, like I would read a book. Right to left, it goes green. The nice thing about it is it's like a partial grab window. So if I go that way to this, anything that I touch, it will select. So I use the green one strategically when I have a lot of geometry and I don't want to I can't quite grab it with my one. I can come in here with just this window and grab some specific geometry. Could grab these with a lasso. So it works the same way. It can lasso and it can just like rectangular grab. It can go up. So it can go down into the like I'm always working right to left here, but I can either go up and to right to left or down and right to left. And the same way with the blue one, I can go kind of like left to right down, or I could go left to right up like this. Yeah, so you get used to that's how I like mass select stuff. Especially if I wanted to delete something, I could just like grab this and say delete on my keyboard. Erase works like delete too, but I think that's the last thing I want to cover. I think I'll call this like good. This is a good like entry in. If you watch the videos that I send you, it'll pretty much be repeat. I might go into a little more depth. I think I cover every modify command and kind of how it works. But we'll go over the ones we need next time when we get here. I'll have a printed off. We'll start drawing. Within one class, we can get our thing drawn, I think. And then the second class that we do, or the third class we do, it'll just kind of be some customization work that we do. So that's it, you guys. Any questions?
How do you play the line
Yeah.
for rectangular? Click on the line, show the line.
Oh yeah, I use this. So I use my material. This is one way. If I don't have like a properties panel up, and I'll talk about that next time. But if I'm just here and I have nothing up, use your like quick distance check here, right? Like quick is cool. It's like a lightsaber, and it'll like whatever it intersects, it'll start feeding you out the dimensions of stuff that you've drawn. So that's kind of handy. It can kind of get a little bit busy. The busier your drawing gets, this can be a little bit hard to get the points you need. So if I need to know like point to point, I will check the distance here. It'll be like, what do you want to measure? This point to this point, and it'll spit you out that. You could check an angle measurement here, like this line. It doesn't look like I selected it, but I did. Like some using that using these commands, it can be like, I don't see that it's selecting it. It's not going electric blue. That's kind of weird. I wish it did go electric blue like some of those other commands, but just kind of rest assured that you've selected it if you've hovered over it and selected it. There's a 90-degree readout. Here's a radius one. If I had anything by radius, I could check it. But yeah, that's a good way to keep track that you've drawn things correct size for sure. Good question, actually. Appreciate that. Yeah, think about stuff when we start drawing. Yeah, as you have questions, just shout them out to me. If because I just keep talking back here. So if you're ever once we start drawing next time, if you're like lost or whatever, just yell at me and I can stop and help. And so we will we'll dismiss Flow for today. That's good. I encourage you guys definitely like if you like this stuff, definitely download these programs while you're students because you have just this free access for a limited time, and this can be kind of handy stuff. So I'm going to stop my recording.